Mics are live, I believe. Test, check. What's up, everybody? My name is Dubious. This is Fly in Formation. And today I'm here talking to two return guests. They were both on here separately prior to this, but they've worked together in the past. I got B1 the Architect and Eddy Jones here. New album on the way. What's up, guys? How you doing?
Good, man. How are you?
Dude, I've been good. I've been good. Out here in Lethbridge, things are good. I hear it's super cold out there in Toronto for you. So
Oh yeah, it's
pity
fucking
you.
bullshit.
Yeah, no,
It's terrible.
I was on the streets in a t-shirt today. It wasn't so bad out this way. So
Oh,
can't
wow. I'm
can't complain.
jealous.
Rubbing it
um,
in.
so you guys got the new album. I saw, like I always do a little like creep through people's social media or whatever before these things happen. So I clicked through and I was looking at Eddy's Threads account there, and you don't post on Threads very much, so it only took me like 2 seconds worth of scrolling to see that 2 years ago in December 2023, you were quoting the bars that are on the Essence right now, which I think is your guys' newest single for the album. So it made
Oh
me think
wow.
like, okay, this album's been coming together for a while then. So
Yeah, for sure.
yeah, tell me about. I mean, I got to hear 5 tracks from it that you guys sent over. Thanks for that. I enjoyed
No
it, but
problems.
tell people what they can expect from it.
You want to go first, Eddie?
For me, I've been going through a lot for the last 2 years, and I think it reflects on the album. I feel like for the first time, um, I use my music to reflect what I've been going through. I feel like in the past, it's kind of reflect what I've been through in the past, or I kind of use it as a outlet to escape my reality. Where this time it was very reflecting of what I was going through at the time, and I think it shows on the album. I think it's more a deeper album than the last one. I think it's still down this, in the soulful realm, but I think this one's a little bit more hits home. I think, especially for me, and yeah, I think the process has been it's been a long time, and we could have put it out a long time ago. I think, but I think we just wanted it to be exactly how we wanted it to be, and we just kind of keep chipping away at it, and almost done, 99% done. I promise.
Well, before we cut the mics live, B1 said he was just working on the final track for it. So
Yeah.
sounds like
Yeah.
it's maybe just got wrapped up, but that's
Yeah,
he's been
pretty
working hard.
much.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
Yeah, it's been much longer coming together than the first Underground Soul. The first Underground Soul came together pretty quick, I think, from what I remember. This has been a couple of years in the making, and yeah, he's right in the sense we could have put it out after like 10 tracks or whatever and kept it short and sweet, but we wanted to do something we didn't do with the first album, and part of that was having more like sonic diversity and different influence from different styles and genres. And so in order to do that, we kind of like had the idea of splitting it into like the underground section and the soul section, and it was originally going to be like a double album, but there's not really a good way to do that in the digital age, releasing digital
right.
double albums. So it ended up just being one big album, but now it's got the diversity of a double album. So it's really cool how it came together. And yeah, man, I've been really enjoying working on it. Every track's been like its own thing, and it feels distinct but still cohesive as part of the whole package.
Did you guys still decide, like, as far as sequencing the songs goes, like, is it still going to be divided between, like you said, the underground side and the soul side or whatever, like, just as it plays
Um,
through?
We try to keep it that way, but we found that, at least personally, I found that a lot of the songs were both. You know what I mean? It was
yeah,
like
yeah.
a lot of the songs are very kind of like some are dark and some are like very soulful, but then there are a lot that are just kind of in between. And that's kind of where, for me, that idea fell apart, because it was kind of like, okay, this one goes here clearly, this one goes here clearly, and it's like, okay, that one is kind of in the middle, and they all kind of turned out to be kind of in the middle like that, where they're both very soulful tracks, and they're still very like, like deep, like the drums, and it's very bassy and stuff like that. So it's kind of like it's both, I think, and I think that's what makes this album different than the last one.
How about the sound? Did you guys evolve the sound a little bit, or we kind of looking at the same, kind of like instrument heavy, soulful kind of boom bap vibes?
It's definitely evolved in the sense it's a little bit more experimental. some of the beats on here are a little bit more in the like abstract backpacker lane, like some of the Dano Bravo stuff he produced especially. So we have some stuff that's very backpacky, very kind of underground, and then we have some stuff that's like very like could almost slide into a pop record kind of thing. So
Yeah.
there's a huge range of styles on this album, and I think it's a much wider musical palette than the first record.
Nice.
Uh, yeah.
I noticed you guys had, I think on the five you sent over, like I want to say three or four of them had somebody singing choruses. Was that E
Yes.
Smitty
Yeah.
or because the versions you sent me didn't actually have the full credit featuring
Well,
this guy or
I
that guy?
did
So
put in the email the description of who was on each track.
oh,
So
that's
if you
probably
go, if
just
you,
me sleeping then.
yeah,
Okay.
Which one
but
did you hear? Do you know? Or which one did you send? B1?
yeah, so I sent him the one with Philly. Philly is doing one of the hooks there from
Yeah.
LRP, and then I sent him the one with E Smitty tonight, and then I also sent him Bad Guy with Kenny.
Mm.
Right.
So there's three different singers on those tracks. Yeah,
Okay. Yeah, nice.
and
And
yeah,
are those guys you've worked with before, or
oh
how'd
yeah,
you
yeah.
find people to collab with for this one?
I mean, those are all close homies of ours. Like I'm good. Like me and Philly, we're obviously in a group together, and then Smitty and I've been working with for years, and Kenny is like longtime friends with Eddy. So
Nice.
there, it's all people in our immediate circle mainly. Though we did reach out for some new singers and stuff that will be a surprise when the album drops for sure.
So, as far as production goes, like I saw the lead single Essence was produced by somebody named Geology. Um, did you guys and you just mentioned Dano Bravo produced a lot of it. Did you end up producing any of it, B1, or was it
Yeah,
all
yeah.
outside
So
producers?
I produced about 4 or 5 tracks on the record. I think two of the ones I sent you were produced by me.
Okay, nice.
Yeah, and
Um,
and we have a big variety of producers on this record. I can't even list them off the top of my head. I would have to like write it all down.
yeah, fair enough.
But
22 tracks, that's a lot, man.
yeah, and that's what brings so much of the diversity to the album is having so many different producers with different styles involved. But it all still sounds cohesive. A lot of them are from similar circles, so they all kind of rock with each other. So they're all like these different twists on the same kind of thing, and it's really cool.
Nice.
So yeah.
Um, how about for like when can people expect the actual full album? Have you guys announced the release date anyway, or?
February for sure. February for sure. When exactly? We're not 100%. Like I said, I'm kind of hoping for February 22nd. But I think for us, it's more about just being done right, because I don't know about B1, but with me, it's always, oh, I wish I would have done this differently. I wish I would have changed that. Wish I would have changed this. And I feel like that's what we're doing right now. I feel like
Right.
right now, because we've been sitting on so many songs for a long time, we are able to, kind of like go back and change the things that we want to change and shape the album that we want to make, and because it's such a long album, we made sure that it was listener friendly and that it just flows easily. It's not drowned out songs, 4 minute, 5 minute songs that you okay, get it. And we have short songs. We just gonna keep it going. I think the flow of the album is gonna be very great to listen to.
What about skits? You guys doing any skits? I always wonder when people have 22 tracks on an album, are we talking, are there any
No skips, no,
interludes or
all original songs. Yeah.
No. So it's 21 tracks and it's all music, no filler.
nice.
That's one thing about me. I've never made an album in my life that had skits. Other than the LRP album, which I obviously that wasn't my decision. I don't like skits personally. That's not. I hope that's not a hot take.
I
But
mean,
yeah,
I think there are people on both sides of it. That's why I
yeah,
wanted to ask it because
yeah.
something you
Like
might.
I think they can have a time and place on the right record, but they're a kind of thing that only really works in the context of a first listen. And in a first listen, sure, like you can kind of get away with it as part of like building the world or building the story around the album. But once you've heard it once, it tends to be like, okay, I'm going to take that right off the fucking playlist. And
That's kind of interesting, actually. I know
yeah,
that you guys are crafting music that, is
yeah,
intended for multiple listens and whatever. But I
yeah,
think a lot of the people in the modern music culture are lucky if they get that one listen before people move on to the next listener. So, like, maybe Skitch should be making a comeback because everybody only gets the one listen through
True.
their fucking album or whatever, right?
I think it depends on the kind
Good
of album
point.
that you're trying to make. If you're trying to make
Yeah.
like a very concept album that
Yeah.
it works, you know what I mean? Then of course, you know, it's that type of album. If it's a
Mhm.
short album, I'm not against it, but I just think that for the kind of album that we're making, it doesn't really work like that. You know, we're not trying to be funny or nothing like that. And like I
Yeah.
said, it's very flowy, right? So
Even saying skits, it sounds like it's got to be a comedy thing. I guess like, yeah, you see a lot of like interludes and things like that, like where they just
Right,
like
right,
let a
yeah.
beat run and it's not really a song, or you know they'll sample stuff a little
Yeah,
bit.
yeah, for
Yeah,
sure. And I think those again, I think those do have a time and place, especially if they're musically like interesting. Like if it's like an instrumental interlude where you just let a DJ like scratch up a part and there's like a dope beat or something, cool. But like I'm not big on the type of skits that are like, okay, let's cut the music and let some guy talk or something. Like it's
yeah, yeah.
I'm here for an album, you know what I mean? Like
It's about the
uh,
music first and
yeah,
foremost. It's
yeah,
about the music.
exactly, exactly.
Um, how about physical copies? You guys gonna do physical copies for this one?
yeah, you're the second person that asks us that actually. Do you think that physical copies are important these days? What do you think?
You asking me or for
Yeah,
what? Uh,
I'm asking you.
Personally, no. I'm team people should buy digital music.
Mm,
My the thing that I try to push to listeners is that like use streaming, find music you like on streaming, and then go buy digital copies of it. And if everybody did that, the music industry would be a place that didn't complain about how streaming sucks. Um,
Right, right.
but that's just my take on it. I don't know.
I like
No,
physical copies because I like or like 'cause I like collecting people's stuff and I like holding it.
Yeah,
But people was talking about this last time where people were always like, "Oh, get physical copies," and then you get them, and then you know crickets, and then you're sitting on a bunch of them, right? So it's just like I don't know. I feel like it's
yeah, that's happened to me a few times when I've ordered physicals where you develop like you make posts and you gauge interest. Who wants one? You know what I mean?
right.
And I feel like a lot of people want to show support in theory, and then when it comes time to like, okay, I need you to buy this thing, people, you know, and I don't like to be the type of person who's chasing people down or
Right.
harassing them to buy shit.
You
So
said you would. Now I'm gonna message you
yeah,
every
exactly,
every
exactly,
day about it. Yeah.
exactly, exactly. So I don't want to be doing that.
yeah.
If
You
there's
almost
enough
got to do
demand
like a
for it,
yeah, you almost got to do like a pre-sale or something like that and actually
exactly,
have people
yeah,
sign up for it beforehand. Yeah.
yeah, that's a good idea. I think to counter you guys' point, I think it does have like physical sales do matter, but it depends on a few different factors, like the scale of the artist. If you have enough demand where you know people are knocking down your fucking door because they want a physical of it, then absolutely it's a no brainer. You're wasting money by not getting them.
Definitely. Yeah. Well, and if you're
But
about to go on
yeah,
tour, right? Then you
yeah,
want
yeah,
merch.
exactly, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. But yeah, if 99% of your fan base is digital and it's online and people are streaming your music, you know it kind of depends on where the demand is, right?
Yeah, for real. Do you guys ever do shows together? Are you going to get a chance to tour or do some shows promoting this?
We have a
We
show in a
actually
week.
we have a show
Yeah,
coming up next weekend, February 1st,
Nice.
here in Oshawa. Trying to do like a tiny desk type of thing, type of vibe here in a place called Bond Street Events here in Oshawa, and this is kind of the pilot show. And hopefully everything goes well. We're gonna have a show there every couple months. There's
Nice.
not really a lot of space here in the GTA for good hip hop shows. All the hip hop shows are usually, you know, have the old drunken and at 2 o'clock in the morning, and you know, bullshit fights. And I think a lot of because of that, a lot of people don't want to go, especially our age, our target audience. So we're trying to do something a little bit more, you know, for the older crowd and a little bit earlier, and hopefully it goes well and we can have a show there every couple months.
Yeah, nice. So when you say tiny desk, like, are they going to be recording it for you? Like, are we going to be able to see video footage of this from their
Yeah, we're gonna be recording it. We're
multi-angle
gonna be
cameras and
releasing
shit?
everything ourselves. We did a show similar to it at a record store a couple of years ago for Underground Soul One, and
Mhm.
it was kind of like that, but we're doing it actually at like a little lounge event. It's not a big space, but like I said, it's just something more intimate, something more personal. So it should be
Yeah,
pretty dope.
nice.
We're gonna be releasing performing songs that we never released, which I think is something that we neither of us has done. Usually try to perform songs that you know people already know or that you know you've done videos for, whatever. But this one we're actually just kind of like showing them for the first time. So I think it's gonna be pretty dope and unique in that sense.
Bit of a preview for the album or whatever. You going to be
Exactly.
performing everything from this one, or are you still going to do some tracks from the first Underground
Yeah,
Soul as
Yeah.
well?
for the old one, it's still
It's
Yeah,
it's
nice.
like 50-50, yeah. So we're starting out the first half of the set's all new. And then we're gonna close out with a few songs from our last record. Yeah. So
Dope.
that's kind of
So
how we set it up.
in preparation for shows, something I've been asking MCs about recently is like, do you guys bother with like full on rehearsal, kind of like we're gonna meet and run through the set, or
yeah. We try to as much
Yeah.
as possible. We have different schedules we want at night, so it's always hard to get, but at least, especially to try to make the set. To that first conversation of what do you want to perform, what do you feel like performing this time.
yeah,
We do that, together, and then we try to get at least one or two rehearsals together after. Sorry, my dog is going crazy right now.
sounded like your dog
Um,
shaking off or something. Yeah,
yeah. But I think it's very important to rehearse together. I know that we still rehearse in our own time. I know I do, but it's good to know exactly where the other one is at. You know what I mean, and know where to help them out and stuff like that.
for real. I wanted to ask you guys about, are you going to send it straight to streaming at the same time that it goes like available to buy on Bandcamp? Or I know a lot of artists have been kind of like staggering the order in which they release to different platforms or whatever. Have you thought about that at all?
I have, but I do think so. I think it like the way I look at it is most of the people who are gonna buy and support it aren't buying and supporting it because that's the only place they can get it. They're doing it because they want to support you, right? So I don't really see a necessity to stagger the release. Have it available to purchase on Bandcamp as soon as it goes live. People hear the album, they want to support it. They have a way to do that, right? That's the way I look at it. I do think if you're like a bigger artist and you're in very high demand, then staggering it and not putting it on streaming right there might actually boost your sales. But I think for most artists, it makes sense to just put it everywhere. And if they want to support you, they have a means to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know what we have done in the past is we put like bonus tracks.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Yeah, we did like which one was it that we did it for? Was it
I think it was,
or my
I
album?
think it was UGS1. Yeah,
Yeah.
Underground Soul 1.
And I think for my album we did it too, where we put like an extra 2 songs on Bandcamp or in physical copies too, to try to get people to get those more.
That's smart.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I wanted to ask you guys about your thoughts on just like oversaturation as artists, because I looked at both of your Spotify's prior to this, and Eddy has, I think it was 5 singles since Underground Soul on his Spotify, and then like B1,
You
you
only had
have
5 singles this year
five
alone.
singles from the last 5 weeks, and like
Yeah.
probably 6 albums in the past year or whatever it was last time I talked to you. I think we were talking about six
Something
albums,
like
but
that. Yeah.
yeah, man. So a difference in kind of like, I don't know, is it a difference in opinion on how much music should come out? Like, are you keeping a lot of music in the vault, Eddie, or like do you guys just create
I
music at a
think it's
different
just,
pace?
yeah, it's a lifestyle difference. Like, homie Eddy over here has a full-time job and kids and doesn't live in a studio. You know what I mean? Like,
There you go. Yeah,
I am in the studio fucking most of my life. So for me to have that kind of output isn't like something that I strain to accomplish. It effort, like I live to create, and it's just whether I'm doing video production, mixing, writing, whatever, that's just what I was born to do. So it doesn't feel like I'm working hard or I'm trying to flood the internet. It's just, and I'm holding back because if I wanted to release everything, there would just be fucking albums dropping every 2 weeks. Like,
yeah,
but yeah, and in Eddy's case, and a lot of other artists I work with case, I think they're just, unfortunately, they just don't have the time to release like that. I don't think it's any. I'm sure if people had great music they were sitting on, they'd want to release it. You know what I mean?
So
Yeah,
check out Eddie.
I always say life gets in the way of this music thing,
Yeah.
and I also think that B1 does work faster than most rappers. You know what I mean? I've seen
Oh,
him,
for sure.
do a whole 16 right there and then, and where it takes me a long time. For me, I have to find the right time, and the moon has to be in the right place, and the stars have to align. And then whenever I get a moment, I work on the music, and I also very like very picky on the beats that I pick, and like I put a lot of weight into what I write. You know what I mean? And I think that for that my process is longer. And
Yeah.
I guess B1 also, like he said, he has more time, but we
Just you
both do
saying
what we
that
can.
you're picky
Yeah.
with beats made me wonder. B1, will you rhyme on pretty much anything? Like if somebody sends you something and is like,
No, no, like I feel like that's a misconception because I release a lot. But
yeah,
if
okay,
you actually like go through my catalog, everything I put out is in a similar level of quality. Like I'm not just rhyming off fucking YouTube beats and shit. Like
yeah,
I'm actually quite picky with beats too. It's just number one, I produce so much of my own shit that I don't have to have that issue because I obviously if I made it, it's something I wanted to make. And then
You're
a
also a
lot
lot
of
more diverse of a rapper though, and as an
yeah,
artist.
exactly. This is the
You know,
thing is
so
like
like I feel
a
like
lot of
it fits more, and I feel like it's more
yeah,
natural for B1 to be in different kinds of songs. Whereas if
yeah.
I try to hop on a certain type of track, people will be like, "What are you doing?" You know what I mean? Like it just wouldn't sound right
Yeah.
for me to do it. You know?
okay.
Yeah,
So
that's the thing too, is I work with so many different people from different lanes and styles and I'm adaptable. So
exactly.
and I have such a big network of amazing talent that it's like people just send me great beats all the time. So I don't even have to have the issue of having to weed through shitty beats because I
Yeah.
just don't. Nobody really sends me shitty beats. I even have random people on Instagram and stuff all the time that I've linked up with that send me packs worth of amazing shit. And so I'm always on a backlog with hundreds of great songs and beats that I can pick from at any time. So
I
yeah, I
mean,
wouldn't say I'm yeah,
yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off
yeah,
there, everyone. But I was going
yeah.
to say that honestly, like to even come up with 21 tracks since December of 2023, plus the 5 that you released, Eddie,
Mm.
that's still 26 tracks or whatever you've written in 12 months or so since then, whatever it is, 13
Yeah,
months.
yeah,
So, like,
absolutely.
honestly, that's still quite a bit of writing for your average
Absolutely.
MC or whatever. It's just B1 stands on the pedal and it's always releasing stuff. But yeah, it is what it is. Okay, so there was something that I actually heard you say though in that track, The Essence, B1, where you say something about how what people are calling progressive is regressing the culture or something along those lines. Do
Oh,
you know the
right.
bar
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
talking
yeah.
about?
Yeah,
Do
yeah.
you I just wanted to like ask about that. Like, do you want to
Sure,
elaborate
sure.
on that? I don't need to ask you anything direct really, but like eh,
No, I get
what
what you're
is that
saying.
sentiment? You know, what are you saying
Okay.
is regressing it?
Um, so I'm specifically talking about like contemporary culture, like the type of art consumption that we are in right now, where everything's in extreme short form content. Um, it's basically how obnoxiously catchy can we make a tiny little thing, right? And it's about how much can we simplify things, how much can we strip back complexity and nuance and anything that would make it niche and make it as like palatable to anybody on the planet as possible by stripping out anything that makes it interesting. And I feel like that's kind of how hip hop has gone, at least in a very specific, like viral mainstream sense, right? I'm obviously not talking about the legions of incredible underground artists that exist all over the place.
Right.
But in like a contemporary culture sense, I find it disturbing how people have pulled back from wanting to engage with thought and really dive into art, and they just want to consume it in mass abundance in tiny fucking snippets. I don't know. I find that just really sad and kind of
I think
indicative of a sick culture.
people are pulling away from thinking about anything, whether it's art or news
Exactly.
or
Yeah,
anything at
for
all,
sure.
really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just how
Yeah.
every everybody raps now. I feel like every TikToker or every influencer type. It's like, oh, I'm releasing a song, and so, they're like,
Yeah.
I remember
Yeah.
one of my kids asking
Absolutely.
me like, oh, everybody has a song now. Like it's so easy to write. Of course you can just, and it's just like, oh
Yeah.
man, and that's kind of where I took from that line, where it's just like, you think it's making the culture better, but it's really making it a joke because anybody just raps, right? And it's so easy for anyone to just.
Right. And to be fair, it sounds very old headish out of context, but what I meant by it is that with progression in technology and like convenience, there's always a darker side to it, right? I feel like that's the downside of it. This thing that used to take decades of people's time investment and work to get good at and release and put their
And a
heart
lot
and
more
soul into.
money too, right? There's no more
Yeah, well, yeah, for
I'm
sure. for
there's no
sure.
more gate there to stop people from, buying their
No,
own equipment because
exactly.
it's cheap enough. Anybody can afford it, really.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And I don't mean to sound defeatist about it because there are still a million amazing artists, but it's just an unfortunate reality that as technology makes it opens the floodgates for anybody to create anything they fucking want in 2 seconds. And that's
Yeah.
going to get way worse as AI gets better too, which is rapidly happening.
Dude, yeah, the AI
Oh,
advancements every
oh
day.
my
Like
God.
I follow a bunch of, posters who
Oh my
post about
God.
that shit.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's so fast. It's getting so much better.
Every
Even
2 minutes on Facebook and Instagram, I see a fake trailer for a fake movie that AI just generated in 2 seconds, and it looks legit. And
yeah,
it's ridiculous.
we're kind of in like a post-truth world at this point because of AI, man.
Yeah,
People aren't going to be able to
yeah.
believe what we see anymore, or
No,
like hear
deep
people
fake.
saying or what
Yeah,
anything. Yeah, yeah. Plausible
exactly.
deniability for everyone for everything at this point because they can say it's AI. Like,
Say I didn't do it.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Um, Something I wondered as I listened to what you guys sent over was if you guys continue working together, would you ever think of like a group name? Have you talked about a group name, or would it always just be two individual artists working together on a project? Because, like, this is the second one together now.
Right.
Will there be a third? How far down the line before, okay, we're a group?
Well, so we've talked briefly about that, and I think we've even like considered making like Underground Soul the group name or whatever, right?
Yeah,
Like have it be the name of the record, and then eventually, if we keep doing the records together, Underground Soul could just be the collective name. And I would even be open. I don't know if we've discussed this in detail, but I'd be open to expanding the Underground Soul idea to have members that are like kind of loosely a part of it, where there's no like commitment to be in a group necessarily, but if you could be part of Underground Soul if you're like a constant collaborator with us or something.
okay, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's
Um,
something that happened naturally because I think people just started calling us Underground Soul before we started
Mhm.
calling it. You know what I mean? Because they just kind of put the name with us. You know, but I think that B1 is such a name by himself. You know what I mean? That it's harder to be under another name. You know, even went through he was there with the Lunchroom Poets and through all these things. I feel like his name holds up more. So I feel like that's why it's we always push our individual names because we want to also push who we are as
Right.
individuals because we're
Yeah,
such
and
a
it also does help with like marketing and stuff if you do like the collaboration of our both of
right.
our fan bases will engage more. If you create your own separate entity and then you kind of have to rebuild that from the ground up, So
Yeah,
um
totally. That makes sense. Even just people can find you on Spotify and click through to either of your profiles right
exactly.
from the
Yeah.
separate links or
Yeah.
whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's more
Um,
just a convenience thing, yeah.
yeah, that makes sense. So this is something I haven't really asked anybody about, but I've noticed that I've had more and more conversations about it with artists lately, just like behind the scenes. But what digital distributor do you guys use? Do you go through DistroKid or CD Baby or like what's your distributor of choice? And what are you going to use for this next album?
So that's a good
DistroKid for me. And I know that B1 was just telling me about one that he's been using lately that I've been thinking about using actually because it looked pretty good and he's been telling me good things about it. I forgot what it's called.
Yeah, so I recently went down the rabbit hole about 2 years ago with DistroKid because I have historically been using them just because they were the easiest and cheapest,
Right.
uh, which is why I'm sure most people use them.
I was going to say,
But
yeah.
yeah, but the issue with them is they have like, and to be fair, this is an issue with almost all digital distribution, is there's this separation where you really can't reach anybody. Like customer service is atrocious. So if you have any sort of issue or anything, which I have had with LRP, I had to re-upload all our music. There was an issue with credit card and stuff. So um, I've had issues in the past where DistroKid just completely screwed me over, and I was like, but also I'm in this position where once your music is tied to a distributor, it's very hard to get off of that distribution because now, unless you transfer all the ownership from that distributor to a new one, all your music's coming down. So I've been keeping up my DistroKid payments and keeping my music on there. But recently I decided to try Two Lost. And the main reason for doing that, I don't know if you guys have heard of that, but it's a Canadian
News to me.
company.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a
Okay.
Canadian company. I think they're from BC. But anyways, they do distribution as well, and they offer unlimited artist slots. So one of the biggest issues with DistroKid that I had was like I collaborate a lot with different artists. And a lot of the time, it's not like one person should be listed as a feature because it's a full blown collaboration where everyone's contributing equally, right? So,
Yeah. Should be an
uh,
equal split or whatever.
yeah, you want to be able to post it so that both of you can have it on your primary releases and have it seen by your fan base and have the streams go to your account and stuff, right? So if you list someone as a feature, they don't really get any of that benefit. They just get put on the little blurb under like music they're featured on, and they don't get the benefit of the monthly listeners and the streams, etc. So that was an issue, and I wanted to solve that. So I went over to Two Lost, and I've been basically running both distributors ever since. So
Okay.
whenever I collaborate with somebody and I want to make sure everybody gets listed as a primary slot, I use Two Lost, and then whenever I'm doing like a solo record or something like that, I just throw it on DistroKid because it's easy.
That
The
makes sense.
only issue, the only issue I've had with the secondary distribution with Two Lost is that randomly, this has happened I think 3 or 4 times now. I will upload everything, they will approve it, everything's good to go. Then the release day comes and the fucking song doesn't exist. I'm like, what is going on? And so I've looked into that, and then that's happened like 3 times. Granted, there's been another 25 times where it worked fine. So it seems like every distribution I've tried, I've also looked into a few other ones, and it seems like everywhere you go, there's some sort of shady business or terrible customer service or something going on. So it's a tough one. I don't even know, like if someone asked me nowadays, for a new artist, what do you recommend signing up for? I genuinely don't know what the fuck to tell you because they all have their pros and cons, and they all seem like it's very hard to get any sort of direct communication with a person if you have an issue.
Right. Of all the people, I mean, you've put out enough music that you probably have dealt with digital distributors more often than almost anybody has. So,
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
your advice probably means something. But
Yeah.
um, do okay, so both you guys, like, I feel like you're making grown man music, and I feel like what that means to me is that the bars have a little bit of like knowledge and some wisdom. There's some experience to pass on to the listener. So I wanted to ask, like, do you guys feel like as artists you have a responsibility to actually be leaders and to be like,
Hell yeah,
yeah, I
for
don't know,
me,
somebody that people can look up to and get knowledge from?
hell yeah, for me, a lot. It's funny. I was having the same conversation with Ulysses earlier on. That's who, the song that we're working on today. That everyone's talking about. That's I was talking to about it, and I don't know if I said it to you on the show before because I know you interviewed me a couple of times. But I did a show with KRS once, and on stage he said, "Your
Hmm.
music will outlive you. Everything that you put out will be here longer than you are." And
Right.
ever since he said that, it was kind of like, a little seed in my head that just kept growing because now that's how I see music. Because
Mhm.
not just for right now, but maybe, okay, it's all cool. But I feel like, especially with me having kids, I feel like something that my kids and my kids' kids are going to be listening to. And I don't want them to be listening to, and then I smoke weed and fuck hoes and you know what I mean, all that shit. I feel like I want them
Yeah.
to get to know me a little bit through my music because I know if my dad or my grandpa made music, I would be listening to like, oh my god, like every single word he says. So that's kind of how I look at it. And I feel like it is a responsibility. Words are, I feel like, very powerful and very important in what you put out there. And for me personally, that's why I take longer writing because it's easy to just write bullshit. But when you actually want to say something, when you actually want people to learn something from your lyrics, for me it takes longer. And I want to make sure that I put out the right message. So I think
Yeah.
it's super super important. I think that we do have a responsibility as artists.
That's beautiful that Karis won, and actually, meeting him in person was what planted that seed or whatever for you. Because I
It was
think a lot of
amazing.
us, haven't got the chance to meet KRS One, but he still passed some of that idea on to us through his music and
Man, it
just his
was
online
Oh
amazing.
yeah,
presence
yeah.
and
The
everything.
preacher, he's kind of like exactly what you would expect, and him in his hands, and he had everybody in the palm of it. He was just like rapping, and everybody like everything he was saying to. And I remember because I was hosting the show, and I remember going up to me like, "How do you want me to introduce you?" And he goes, "I don't need no introduction." And he takes the microphone. It was kind of like Yes, this is exactly what you would expect from KRS One. Right?
Yeah,
It
for
was
real.
amazing.
Epitome of an
Um,
MC, man. Yeah. Sorry. Go
yeah.
ahead, B1.
Can you repeat the question quickly? Sorry.
Yeah, man. Do you feel responsibility as an artist to kind of be able to lead people in the right direction and kind of drop knowledge in your bars?
Um, so I don't necessarily have the same answer as Eddie necessarily because I view this in a more I don't know I think it's a complex thing because expression and art to me are things that can take you in a lot of different directions, right? If you need, like, for example, if you're in a place, you're in a really dark place and you need to express something, what you're saying in the song might not be great advice, but it can be a beautiful piece of art. You know what I mean? So I think it really depends on what the record is and what it means to you. But generally, with that said, I think there's an accountability with anything you put on wax or anything you put into the world that it's attached to your name, right? I think there should always be responsibility and accountability there. And I wouldn't say anything or record anything that I thought was destructive to people around me or anything like that.
I think
With
that
that,
even the fact that you're thinking about it, because I feel like a lot of rappers
yeah,
just rap to sound cool, or just you know what I mean, say
yeah,
what's cool these days, or oh, people are using that word, I'm gonna use that word. Oh, people
yeah,
are
yeah, for
rapping
sure,
about
Yeah.
Bugattis,
for
I'm
sure.
gonna rap about Bugattis. You know what I mean? And I feel like
Oh yeah,
even just being conscious about, I don't want to rap about no bullshit. I think that's just even in the right direction, because we are,
100%.
and I feel like that's where
Right.
conscious quote unquote music comes from, because we're not just rapping to rap, or you know what I mean. A lot of
Mhm.
most rappers straight up lie, you know what I mean, have this like fantasy, you know what I mean, kind of like, and oh yeah, I don't really have a car, but it sounds cool, I've heard rappers
I'm
say
gonna
that to me,
rap
and I'm
about
like,
my Bugatti. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm just
Yeah,
like, what
yeah, no,
Bugatti? You
for
don't, you
sure,
don't even
for
know how to
sure.
spell Bugatti. What are you talking about? And I feel
Yeah,
like it's, for me, it'd be easier to rap like that, because it's just whatever. La La
right.
Land, what rhymes with Bugatti, but like to actually mean something, and to actually, have some substance, I think it's that's a lot harder, and it takes a lot more effort.
Right. Well, the thing with me is like I write from such an internal place, such an honest, like introspective place naturally that I don't really sit there and think about like I need to be responsible. I just write what comes to me, which is my truth. You know what I mean? I just put that
Mhm.
on a record.
Yeah. That
Period.
makes
So
sense.
yeah, and I think to like my advice to any writer or rapper is just there's no need to overthink it or be pretentious about how important you are. Just fucking write what means a lot to you in your real life. You know what I mean? Like,
That's probably good advice, man.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. um, so do you guys think this is something I asked a few different people. They like host a show where they like rate rappers who come on stage and rap for 60 seconds each. And I asked them, but I think it's a good question for everybody. But do you get more or less critical of other artists as you get older?
Good question. For me, it's tough because in this day and age where like everyone's an artist and like it is so oversaturated, I think just through overexposure you naturally become hardened and over cynical about it. And yeah, you do become more and more critical. Now, with that said, I'm not like the type who's like outwardly critical, who's like going on line and thrashing people for trying to do something and not being great at it or something like that. It's none of my business. I would never do that. But for my own listening taste, like if I hear something and I'm hearing the flaws in it, definitely. As I get older, it's like more and more apparent, I guess, just because the more hours you put into your craft and the
Yeah.
better you get at what you do, you start to you've spent so many years critiquing yourself. It's only natural to apply it to what you hear as well, right?
For
I think
yourself,
for me,
B1, sorry, Eddie, I want to ask B1 a follow up to that just here.
yeah, go
For
ahead.
Yeah,
yourself, do you find yourself critiquing, because you're an engineer, so do you find yourself critiquing
yeah,
people's mixes a lot? Because definitely
for
what you said
sure.
about learning more about engineering, I've noticed
Yeah.
just hearing more and more
Mhm.
flaws in people's music as I, learn more about how to
Exactly.
engineer myself.
Actually, that's a good follow-up question because if anything, that's probably the thing that jumps out to me the most when I hear people's music is like the technical aspects. If the production is weak or if there's something just like fundamentally off about the mix, that'll kind of just throw me out of whack, and then it's hard to focus on what they're doing as a writer or whatever. So yeah, I would definitely say it's kind of all tied together. The technical aspects are something that, like, and I'm not like super picky about it's got to be top tier mixing and mastering. Everything has to be, $10,000 put behind it or anything. But at the same time, if something's fundamentally wrong technically, it's really hard to appreciate anything about it.
For
so,
real.
so,
Yeah.
so that's why it's important to get that element dealt with so that people can actually appreciate the artistry behind it.
Yeah. How about you, Eddie? Do you feel yourself getting more critical as you age, or more open-minded?
Definitely, and I feel like for me, I've met so many amazing artists, and I've worked with so many amazing artists that they kind of raise the bar. You know what I mean? That other artists kind of like, yeah, you're right, but but I've met, I know what it can be like, and I've seen what it, you know what I mean, what it can go over. So for me, I expect that now, and I feel like we were saying before, there's so many artists out there that it's kind of like, a lot of times I feel like I've heard I've heard this kind of thing before, and it's very hard for somebody to stand out or to be like, or to wow me, because I've met so many good talent that when it does happen, it means so much more, and I don't know if I'm
Yeah.
getting more because I've always been picky, and I've always, especially at the beginning when you're kids and you're rapping with your buddies, anybody that you don't want to rap with is like, they get kind of like personal about it or stuff like that, but I've always, just liked what I liked, and I never been able to be like, oh well, we're buddies, and so whatever, I've told some people like, you still gotta be good,
You don't
and
let it slide, even if it's the homie. Yeah.
no, no,
Yeah.
straight
Yeah.
up. And I've always been picky like that, and that's why I've always worked with what I think are the best artists, and I've been very blessed to meet a lot of talented people in my life because I have been picky like that.
Real. All right, guys. So we're coming up on the hour mark. I want to get to some of these how important questions.
Yeah.
B1, I know, like I talked to you months ago, so I think I remember kind of which ones I didn't ask you. Eddie, I don't even know if last time I talked to you I was doing this segment or not, but I asked people how important is this or that, and you can either be long-winded or short about it and just give a quick rating or answer. But
Gotcha.
let's start in with this one. How I think I asked you this already, B1, but
No
mostly
problem.
Eddie, how important is making music videos?
I think it's very important these days. I think making any kind of media piece is important these days. I feel like a lot of songs get go under the radar because there wasn't a video for it or it didn't get pushed. There's still a lot of songs. B1, we shoot a lot of videos, especially him, but we've done a lot of videos for a lot of songs, and there's still some songs in there were in the album that I wish we would have shot a video for because people
Yeah.
didn't really get to know it like that. Because
Okay.
people will check it out more if they see a video for it, they see a visual for it. And as many videos as we do, I still don't think it's enough. I feel like these days there's no reason not to have a song for every video. Like I met a rapper, I'm not gonna say any names, but he's not wasn't a new like rapper, somebody that I've known that has rapped for a couple years, and he told me I've never done a video before, and I was just so blown away because it's kind of like like 15, 20 years ago when videos were $500, $800 no matter what, then okay, I get it, but now
Yeah.
we all have iPhones, we all have
Yeah.
what I mean, like,
Yeah.
and it's crazy
No,
You
for
can
to
get the
sure.
have.
free editing software even and
You
do
know
it
what I'm
yourself if you
Yeah.
saying?
want
Like,
to.
Yeah.
don't
Exactly.
even do any editing if you can't do it. Like, just straight up shoot it. Like, I don't know anything, and I
Yeah.
think it's very important. I think it's very important to have, like I said, as much as you possibly can. I think we're in
Yeah.
that kind of market where people get bored, and they just want to scroll, and they just want to hit like, and you have to give them something. You have to stay current in that sense, and
For
what better
real.
way
Yeah.
than a video?
Yeah.
Keep
I
popping
totally
up
agree.
visually. Yeah.
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 I don't remember if I answered this, but I'll follow up anyways. But
Sure.
I totally agree with Eddie. I think it's probably more important than ever just because there is so much music released, and um, putting a video behind it and putting that extra effort really shows your fans and your audience like, oh, I care about this track. You know what I mean? This means something because we invested the money or the time to put a video together for it and present that to you. I think that does make a difference,
Yeah.
and it kind of establishes the song as something that's worth investing the time to listen into because we've invested the time to put everything together for it.
That makes
And
sense. Yeah. It shows people that it wasn't just 20 minutes in somebody's,
yeah,
studio
exactly,
throwing a
right?
song
Yeah,
together. Yeah.
exactly. Like, putting the song together, having a proper mix and master, having a proper 4K video put together. Like it all presents an element that, you know, we believe in this and we want to push it to you. So in a perfect world, I agree with Eddie, like every song would have a fucking video. Like we were talking about at one point, like we wish we could shoot a video for every song on the album and then present the album on YouTube as like a short film or something
That would
like
be
that.
amazing. That's always been one of my dreams
Yeah.
since I was a kid.
Yeah,
You know,
that would be
like,
super sick.
every single one, like,
Yeah.
man.
That's some Beyonce shit or something. I feel like one of her
Yeah,
albums
right.
dropped
Yeah.
like that. Yeah.
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 You know what's funny? When we've done videos for songs that are like a year old, and then people will be like, "Oh, your new song."
Yeah.
Oh,
Exactly,
you know, like,
right,
where can I get this? And it's like, oh, actually, it's been out since last February, but you know, like, oh,
Dude,
really? Like,
the re-release is powerful these days because there's such a flow of music that like I played something on last week's Atsick that Buddy hit me and he was like, "Oh, I recorded that in 2002." I thought it was new. I don't know. I mean, I played it beside a bunch of new music. It's new to the streaming platforms or whatever, but yeah, new to somebody out there. Yeah. Okay. How about this? How important is it the listener understands your lyrics and what you're trying to say?
Ooh, that's a good one. That's a good one.
To me, is the most important.
Yeah.
To me, is the most important.
Yeah, I think it's quite important. I would hope that you can communicate well enough and articulate your lyrics in a way that is compelling and accessible enough where people can take it in within a listen or two or three without having to, because I write extremely densely in terms of, you know, metaphors and complex multisyllabic structures and stuff, but I still try to always present it in a way where I'm speaking extremely clearly and I'm using language that's understandable.
What you're actually saying.
Yeah, I don't try, like, even when I'm saying something that's maybe has multiple interpretations or it's a little poetic, I'm never trying to just confuse people or be abstract in the sense that nobody knows what the fuck I'm talking about, right? So I think there's a fine line there where you definitely want people to at least follow the gist of where you're going with every verse and kind of understand the themes and the story of what you're trying to do, right?
Yeah, I think it depends also on who your target audience is. I feel like there's a lot of, like, you know, kids who just listen to it for the beat and for the and they just want to, you know, like, and I feel like if you're targeting them, then it doesn't really matter. You just got to say some cool shit, you know, even if you're saying blah 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 blah, but if blah 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 sounds cool, they'll love it.
Make sure you use the new slang or whatever, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Our target audience, the kind of people that we're trying to reach to, are the people that, you know, take it in and actually listen to, and, you know, are sitting there listening to every word we say. And I feel like because of that, I think it is very important for both of us to be very, you know.
Yeah, exactly. I agree with Eddie. I think it comes down to your demographic, right? If you're making music for older people who came up listening to vinyl records and reading the liner notes and like going lyric by lyric on their albums and like hearing everything, right?
And listening to an album more than one time.
Exactly. Like back in the day, people would buy 2 records a year and listen to them hundreds of times and read the liner notes. And so I feel like if that's your demographic, if listeners are like that, then absolutely you want people to be able to follow what you're doing. So I think for what we do, for the style of music we do, it's extremely important. For contemporary pop music, maybe not so much. You know what I mean?
Makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
How important is getting your streaming numbers up?
It's a good one too.
Once again, is what you're trying to do as a rapper. I feel like a lot of rappers are, you know, quote unquote, trying to make it or trying to, you know, go somewhere with the music. And I feel like if you're trying to do that, then it's very important. I feel, you know, but with me, I don't care. You know, to me, I'll put out a song. If I love it, that's all that matters. If it gets one listen, then I appreciate that one listener. You know, to me, it doesn't matter. I know a lot of people are worried about numbers. Or I want to get it up to this. I don't care. You know, as long as the people who actually love it because they actually love it, then that's all that matters to me. You know, if it's 5 listeners, but it's actual 5 listeners and 5 people, you know what I mean, who are my actual, you know, fans and love the music, and that's all I care about personally.
Yeah, no, I think that's probably the healthiest perspective to have on it. Absolutely. I think that's probably where most artists should be. But unfortunately, it's like it's really easy to get caught in the trap of chasing numbers, chasing algorithms, chasing and I've been in that trap myself. Like I've been slowly just over the last 2 years, like gradually ratcheting up my streaming numbers, and it's growing, and I do appreciate that. But you're never satisfied. You're never happy with anything. Like even when I first started releasing stuff on Spotify 3, 4 years ago, I had maybe 30 listeners, and I was like, "What the fuck is this?" Now I have 3,000 and something, and I'm like, "What the fuck is this? This is trash." Like there's no yeah, you know
Do
what
you,
I
do
mean?
you notice any difference? Because one thing that some artists go for that number for is because so many promoters, since they don't
Right.
really book with their ear, they're booking based on metrics
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that. I think a lot of people want to get their numbers up so that then they get more shows offered to them or whatever. Have you noticed any difference?
I've noticed a difference sort of in terms of certain artists reaching out for different things and clients reaching out and stuff. There's definitely a perceptual difference. It's unfortunate that the world's that fucking superficial, but that like the difference between having 300 monthly listeners and 3,000 is maybe how someone approaches you. If you
Yeah,
have 300, they're gonna hit you up and ask for something for free. And if you have 3,000 or more, they're gonna, assume they're gonna have to pay you and come with a budget right away.
yeah,
So there's stuff like that. Promoters probably treat you differently. So I think it isn't if you're chasing the idea of making your music a business, then it is unfortunately important.
right.
But the process of going through that and having to constantly engage with this stuff, it really does suck. Yeah.
There's
And
So
really
easier
it's
businesses
disheartening
to
when
be in.
people like buy streaming too, because I know people that they have 500 listens one day, and the next day they have 15,000, and I'm just like,
yeah,
oh man, why
yeah,
am I
that's
trying to
yeah,
chase? Why am I trying to get these real numbers where these kids are just paying however much, and they're all of a sudden
right,
and
But
it's kind of like
I'll
I'm
tell
not
you,
gonna
as
be
somebody who
that.
watches people's numbers do that real fast, a lot of those songs are gone 2 weeks later. There's
That's what I'm
stuff that when I
saying.
right,
go
right.
to make a playlist of everything I played last year, a lot of those songs are gone, and it's like, well, it used to be
Got
here,
you.
but
Yeah,
now it's been struck down because maybe there was bots, maybe there was a sample, who knows what happened, but
right,
yeah,
right.
yeah,
Yeah, no, and that's another big factor to it is just how quickly things can change if you invest in marketing or something, right? And you can easily get lapped by people who just have a bigger budget than you. So yeah, it's I think the right perspective is to just focus purely on your own growth and try and keep everything in perspective.
yeah, yeah,
And just try and make the best art you can and whatever, and be appreciative for people who do listen, and try and just constantly reach new people instead of being upset about someone who didn't share your music or didn't engage or whatever. Just try and constantly get new eyes on your art in some way.
definitely.
Easier said than done, but I think that's the way to approach it.
Yeah, that's the push.
Yeah.
Eddy, I know I asked B1 this one last time. I have the clip on my phone already cut and ready to post when it's time to post the montage of these answers. But how important is having or finding the right romantic partner for an artist specifically?
Oh, I didn't know you were going to ask that one. I thought you were going to ask the other one about the videos, but the budget, the loan, the grants.
Oh, right.
Yeah, I mean, I
How
could
important
ask
is
you about
having
the
a
grants too,
romantic
but
partner? Is that what you said?
yeah, man,
Romantic partner.
just listening to this, you're rapping a little bit about some romantic relationships you've had. I heard on some of these songs or whatever. So yeah, I
Mm.
thought it was a fitting question to ask you.
I don't know if it's important, but I think it's important to rap about what you're going through, and I feel like that's when people can relate to your music, And I feel like I was saying before, with this album was the first because I feel like before I was rapping about what I had gone through or what I wanted to rap about,
Yeah,
what message I wanted to put out in the world, and I was focused on that. With this album, it was literally what I was going through in real time, and it was just going, eh, you know, trying to uh, go head on with my problems, and not run away from them at all, And I felt like a lot of times I was because I was going through a new relationship. I broke up with my last one and going through a new one, and I feel like that's what's reflecting with this music. So I don't think it's important to have one, but like I said, I think it's important to be, very real about what you're going through, and
yeah,
that's what I was just going through at the time. And
yeah.
it's not just only love songs in the album. I think there's also like a couple breakup songs, a couple like heartache songs. So I think there's a little bit of both on this
Sure. And
album.
it can all be good material, right? Whether you're happy in a relationship, there can be good material out of that, or whether you're coming out of a relationship, there can be
Yeah,
good
actually,
material
like
to
there
write
was a
there
girl that I
too, right?
was seeing at the time between those two girls, and I remember when she stopped talking to me, I messaged her, and she said, "My mystery doesn't love company," and I was just like, "Oh, that's a cool line to use." So
There you go. That's a bar.
so
Yeah.
I used that in a song, you know what I mean? And it was kind of like, and it just like that creativity. We're like, oh, this just sparks something, and it's kind of like, and from that,
Direct
I got a whole
inspiration.
song
Yeah.
out of it. Yeah,
Yeah. Dope. Okay. One more of these things. How important is album art?
Huh.
super important,
Yeah.
Yeah.
super important.
Yeah, I think in this day and age, anything it's kind of similar to the video question. I think
Right.
having quality art or art that at least like really captures the themes and style of the song and feels like a cohesive piece. It just again, it's just it all ties together and creates the atmosphere and the understanding that you care a lot about what you're making, right? And that makes people more likely to invest their time in listening to it. So yeah,
Yeah,
I'd
and
say
for me, I think I also like to incorporate it into what the album feels like, because I feel a lot of
yeah,
people make a
exactly.
whatever album and then get a whatever cover and then do whatever cover art, and it's kind of like your cover art has nothing to do with the album
Yeah,
at all. It doesn't sound like it. You know what I mean? It's kind of like false advertisement.
exactly.
Where I like to think about what the album looks like, and you know what I mean, and even down
Yeah.
to the colors. Like B1 and I were talking about, what colors we wanted to use, and the reason we went with the pink and the black is because I feel like it reflects both of the sides of the album, where it's
Right,
very
right.
dark and it's also very pink, and a lot of like love songs, like you said, and it's kind of like,
Yeah.
and we're explaining the album also visually,
Yeah.
through colors and through the things that we do, not just here's
You
a cool
reminded me of a bar that I heard you say, Eddie, where you say like you make everything go pink or something along those lines.
exactly.
I
Yeah,
heard a
that kind
bar
of
like that. Yeah.
all
That's where I
ties
got it from. It was
together.
like black and white, I think, and then here comes the girl. Now everything is pink, and it's like,
In
Yeah.
color, yeah,
that's where
yeah,
those colors come from.
yeah. No, I think that to follow up on it, what he was saying, I think that's actually a big distinction that I would make as well. Is like, I think great videos and great artwork and stuff isn't just because nowadays there's tons of people that have money and budgets and they can go get the best videographer in town and the best album art guy in town to cook them up something that looks amazing, but it doesn't actually have anything to fucking do with the
No
themes,
meaning,
no
nothing.
meaning, no cohesion with the art or the music itself.
It's
And
expensive
then
shit.
it's exactly, and I see that all the time where it's like, wow, that's very professionally done, but it's super like vapid and pointless because
Right.
it's you'll have a song where you're just rapping a bunch of gibberish that has nothing to do with anything, and then you have this like beautiful art canvas as an album art. It's like, what the fuck does this have to do with what you're talking? Like, you know what I mean? I like
Yeah.
my artwork to be everything's cohesive. It's all part of telling the story or whatever the themes of the music are, right?
For real. So I lied. I have one more of these. This one's for B1 specifically. And just because you're a producer, I forgot to ask you this last time, but how important is having a producer drop or producer tag at the start of your beats
Um,
or on your beats?
This
I
is
don't
a
have
good
one,
one.
so I don't I don't know if I'm the right guy to ask because I don't have one.
That's
Um,
why I wanted to ask though specifically because I've
yeah.
asked guys who, have the memorable one, but yeah,
I think it really depends how you work. Because of the type of producer I am, like I don't know, there's multiple different types of producers. Like if you're the type of producer who puts beats on BeatStars and you're mass selling beats, and there's gonna be a ton, like maybe hundreds of artists that rap on your beats over your career.
yeah,
I think it's super important because otherwise there's like you need that vision, that sort of audio reminder of who produced it for people to tie all these loose ends together. If you produce records for people all over the globe in different genres, and no one would ever think that it's even the same producer. And a lot of the time, people don't do a good job of promoting the producer when they release a song, right? So I do think for those types of producers, of the utmost importance
yeah,
because you want to keep your brand circulating. You want people to know that you produced it. So I think that is really important. But for me, I work in a kind of like a tight knit community in terms of most of the people I produce beats for are my homies or like clients that I've worked with for like 8 years. I don't really mass sell beats like that. I would not saying I won't at some point, but at my current stage, like the way I do production, it's all very in-house and it's all very tailored to the artist and the song. And I've just never worried about it or thought about it really. Like I need to
And once
put
again,
beats.
it goes back to like the who
Yeah.
we're targeting, because if we're trying to make a certain type of song and it's a serious song, you don't want like this is a
Yeah,
B1 production, and that,
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
like
Right. Yeah.
doesn't
it's a
go.
Yeah,
fine line,
exactly.
man. Yeah. Well, and sometimes it sounds like, did this guy steal the beat? Like, why has it got a producer
Right,
tag that
right.
big on it still? Like,
We use
Exactly.
a lot of producers who have tags on their beats, but we
True.
never use the tag.
right.
I think in this album is the first one that we have the tag in the album. Do you know which one we won?
Which one is it? I can't
The one that
remember.
he was talking about, the LI's one. He has the LI's
Oh,
tag in the
does
front.
oh yeah, he has that in all of his beats.
Yeah.
His is kind of cool though because it's like it's kind of weird and you wouldn't it doesn't even necessarily sound that much like a beat tag.
And it kind of
Okay.
worked.
Yeah.
That's why we left it in there, because it
Yeah,
kind of worked with it as it was going in.
yeah, it just sounds like a sample that kind of goes into the track. But yeah, so to answer again, like anybody other than myself, probably very important.
Fair enough. Yeah. Uh,
Yeah.
okay. There's one question I always ask people for, like a tip to give to other artists. And I feel like a lot of MCs that I run into don't know where they can find beats to buy and how to
Mm.
actually link up and buy beats from people. And vice versa. I think there are a lot of people out there producing beats in their basement who don't know where to find MCs who want to work and make
Right.
music. So I just wanted to ask you guys, like, for a tip on how to find artists to collaborate with. Like, how did you guys build the networks that you have?
It's a good question. In my case, it's hard to explain because it just came super easy. Like not to sound in any way arrogant or anything, but ever since I've been putting out music in 2018, 2019 era,
Yeah.
I just had like a steady flow of artists that wanted to work with me. And I've been able to be like relatively selective because there's just like people constantly want to. Um, but the main thing is just put music out there, make sure it's high quality, make sure the mixing's on point, the mastering, make sure you have videos. And the better stuff you can put out, the more people will want to hit you up and work. And also don't be afraid. Don't like another big thing is like don't have that ego or pride where it's like, oh, I'm too cool to reach out to somebody, right? So there's been a ton of people where I just like shoot my shot, even if they have more followers than me. Who gives a fuck, right? It's never personal if they don't respond because they're busy or something anyway. So, if there's somebody you want to work with and you like their sound and you think you guys can make a dope song together, just hit them up. Go for it.
Makes
Just
sense.
be respectful and that's it.
For me, I'm a big beat connoisseur. I really follow beat makers and producers. There's a group of producers called the Producers Corner. I don't know if we talked about it last time that I was on your show.
Doesn't ring a bell, but maybe.
The Producers Corner, what it is they're out of they're all over the world, but the guys that do it are out of New York. And what they do is they release a sample every week, and a bunch of producers make a beat to it. And then every week at the end of it, they have on YouTube Live where they play all the beats, and then they pick first, second, and third. And that community of producers have grown so much. They're all
Yeah.
over the world, and that's how we got 90% of the beats for this album. Because for me,
Yeah,
Smart.
true.
Daniel Bravo. So when I started working with B1, he already knew Daniel Bravo. I don't know how, but because Daniel Bravo was a part of that.
From
And
Shark.
Shark. Yeah, I was
Cousins.
gonna say
Yeah.
Sons of Boom Bap,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
okay, and then from there I met Geology, and then I met Allies, and then I met, you know what I mean. And what I do is it's all on SoundCloud. I will discover a producer, and I'll just go down all their catalog, and I'll listen to literally every single beat that they have ever made. And that's all I do. I don't even listen to other rappers. I just sit there and listen to beats, and I, fine comb through all of them, and I look for ones that are for me, ones that are for B1 and I, different artists that I think. And like B1 said, I don't have no shame. Just, hey, you want to work? This is what I got. I send them my music. This is what I've done. This is who I work with. So most of them are amazing. I was super down to work. They just producers need rappers just like rappers need producers. So a lot of them are like, hell yeah, I'll give you this.
Yeah.
Some of them are or they want money, blah blah blah, whatever it is. Sometimes it doesn't work, but we have met a lot of producers who are just so dope, and that's why I became a beat snob, because there's just so much to go to. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And I just found so much gold, and I look at it, and
Yeah.
whenever when I find the beat for the Essence, I was just like, oh my god, nobody
Yeah.
has picked this, because that beat's like 3-4 years old. So that means that
Right.
it's sitting on SoundCloud, just
Right.
collecting dust, you know. And now
Yeah.
you're listening to it, and I'm just like, oh my god. And like I say in the song, I'm like, it's so beautiful, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Because it's just like, it just gives you that vibe, you know what I mean? And it just paints, you know, it's like a backdrop for a movie, you know what I mean? You walk into the
Yeah.
set, like, you know, it's already all there for me, you know what I mean? And it's so easy to write and to pour out to, because it's already there. And
The
I just
inspiration hits. Yeah.
we've been very, very lucky, you know. And these are artists like or producers, like B1 said, that I also reached out to us. Not all of them, it's us reaching out to them. Some of them are like, oh, I'm a big fan of
Yeah.
Geology, you did work with them, I want to work with you. I'm a big fan of Dino Bravo. And just
Yeah.
like that,
Exactly.
I've met, and amazing,
So
amazing work.
how did you guys link up? Was it an online reach out like we were just talking about, or did you meet in person
No,
or something?
I did an interview for DJ Tic Tactic. He has a radio show here in Peterborough.
Yeah.
And at the end of the show, at the end of the interview, he said, we have a show coming up next week. You should come out. And I was like, all right. And I went there by myself. B1 was there by himself. He performed by himself. There was a shitty bar and no stage, crappy sound. You know,
Oh yeah, yeah.
typical hip hop show. The
Yeah.
Milestone, remember, up in North Oshawa?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
because him and I had gone by ourselves, we just ended up chopping it up at the end of the night, blah, blah, blah.
Nice.
And then let's do a song, let's do another one. And then by the end of it, it was like, why don't you do a whole EP? We released an EP in 2019 called
Yeah.
Freedom. And yeah, been working ever since.
Yeah. That's that whole make good music and good things happen thing
Yeah,
in
and they
practice,
just like,
really.
and
Yeah,
Yeah.
for
like you
sure.
were saying, just reaching out, you know what I mean? And I feel like that's the main thing with rappers, that they don't show up to a show if they're not performing. They don't go to any, they don't, you know, listen to
Right.
anybody else's music. They want everybody to support them. And why does nobody support me? But they don't support anybody else. You know what I mean? Like, even the show that we have coming up, as soon as I announced that I have a show, that I'm putting a show, people, oh, put me on, put me on. Oh, yo, can you put me on? But when I have a show, they're not, you know, like, where, hey, come out. No, I don't want to go. But
Right.
if I'm performing, though, I'll come. You see what I'm saying? And I've
I
never,
know that mentality well, man. There's a lot of rappers I'll pass links and be like, yo, check out the mix this week. And like, I got a stat, the website shows me the stats. I know who listens to this fucking show. And
Yeah.
it's not a lot of artists, not a lot of artists give a shit about who's making music around them,
exactly.
as far as I can tell. So yeah,
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
it's good to know the people around you and
But I've
get
always
out
been
and shake
humble enough
hands.
to just, go out there and put myself out there, and to show love and to reach out. And that's how B1 and I ended up working together. So
Yeah, right on, man.
Yeah, I think communication and just not being afraid to, to just be vulnerable is important in
Yeah.
this age, especially when everyone's so separated and divided in the digital landscape. I think it's really easy to just hunker down and be scared to interact with people, but
Yeah.
I've just always been like, who gives a fuck? I'll talk to anybody. So
There's so
that's
much
my
emphasis these
mentality.
days
Yeah.
on like the polished image being what's presented, right? That I think a lot of
Yeah.
people don't want to step outside of that bubble and present anything except that little
Right.
clip on
Right.
Instagram of themselves or whatever. But yeah, you got to get out there and meet people.
no, for
Um,
Absolutely.
so to wrap this thing up, and I know I've had both you guys describe your local scene before, but I even repeat guests ask, can you describe your local scene? Because sometimes it's changed over the past years since I talked to people, or their opinions changed. But what's the Toronto hip hop scene feel like these days?
honestly, I think we have our own sub culture here and scene in Oshawa, Ontario. I feel like we are very close to Toronto, where we get put under the Toronto umbrella, but there are a lot of dope artists coming out of Oshawa, that even from all over Ontario, that are like, coming down to Oshawa. 420 Click, us, like, there's just so many that I feel like it's our own thing. And I feel like we all show love to each other. And I feel like we all collaborate, because I feel like the Toronto scene is Screwface Capital is, like we were saying, like, fuck you, I'm better.
Yeah,
Fuck you, I'm better, but I feel like, because we're far enough that we're our own little thing. I think we all show love to each other and we all collaborate. And I think that we are have our own little scene here. That's pretty dope, especially the last couple of years. I feel like it's coming back.
Yeah, yeah, no, for sure. I think that's a good way of putting it too. Like in any like area, there's always the big city, and then there's all these little like regions outside of it, right? So we're like an hour outside of Toronto, and where we are, there's like a bunch of cities around there, and I would say the kind of like Durham region GTA scene is almost separated from the Toronto scene because like Eddie was saying, the Toronto scene is very like elitist and gatekeepy. If you aren't like buddy with certain people, it's just like you're not going to get put on shows, you're not going to meet certain people. It is what it is. But in these kind of little regional outskirts of Toronto, people are a lot more open to working with each other. And in our Durham region scene, there's some really elite talent that are just like super humble, chill people that are super easy to work with, collaborate with, do shows with, etc. So I think we have a dope little local scene here, and me and Eddie are going to keep trying to build and help it thrive as much as we can, right? So,
Beautiful,
so
beautiful.
yeah.
Anything else you guys want to plug? I don't have any more questions left, but if there's any,
I just want to shout you out, man. You're always supporting us and supporting everyone. And there's not a lot of people out there that actually listen to the music. Even I feel like people that have their own shows, I feel like you can tell that you actually listen to the music and you actually study. And I feel like a lot of people, when I get interviewed, they just kind of like just go off by what they see in my Instagram or my social media. But you can always tell that you listen to the music and you're actually a fan and you're actually participating in this Canadian hip hop shit. So I just want to shout you out, man. We
thanks,
appreciate
dude.
you and people like you, man. Keep doing your thing.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
totally agree. And also, I will compliment your interviewing skills because almost every other interview I've been in ever, I'm always looking at the clock. Every time I've done, yeah, you know what I mean? You're just like, holy fuck, what is it? No, no disrespect to anybody, by the way. But you know what I mean? You're just like, oh, maybe I got to go soon. But like every time I've done an interview with you, it's like, oh, it's an hour already? What the fuck?
Yeah, because
So,
you can
yeah,
actually tell that you know what you're
That's a good
talking
yeah,
thing.
about and that you know the
yeah.
scene and that you're.
Just doing prep work and having knowledge of the artist you're interviewing and then having a set of questions to build off, man, people really need to step up their journalism skills.
It goes a long ways, but also
Yes.
what you guys were saying about, there's a bunch of really chill, down to earth artists out there that you've been
Yeah.
connecting with. That's how I feel too, is like a lot of the really dope motherfuckers across the country are like you guys, where it's easy to talk to you and
Mhm.
Yeah.
it's fun to talk to you. So I've just been having a lot of fun meeting all these dope motherfuckers across the country and just being able to pick people's brains or whatever. So I always appreciate you
Absolutely.
guys coming on to share knowledge, and hopefully there's some artists out there who are watching these things and taking in, making some notes or whatever. Because, yeah, there's a lot of people with experience and knowledge to share. So appreciate you coming
Absolutely,
on to
man.
do it. Yeah.
Yeah. And then final plug, we do have Courier de Bois, our second single off the album, dropping on what day is it dropping? 3 days?
Something like
When
that. Yeah.
Wednesday. Dropping on Wednesday with a video that's featuring Lizeppo, another really,
Nice.
really dope. Yeah, I would consider him part of our little like Durham region community, right? Because he's in Pickering, which is
Yeah.
like 15 minutes from me. So
That's
he's like,
super dope, man. I don't know if you interviewed him
yeah,
before, but if you haven't, you need to get to him, man.
I
yeah,
should reach
Zeppo's
One
out
of
to
my
him. Yeah. I play his
yeah,
music often, but no, I haven't actually talked to him yet. So,
yeah. Hit him up,
yeah,
man. He's a cool dude, and he's got lots to talk about. So he'd be
Yeah,
a good
he's
interview.
one of those rappers that just makes you want to rap better, and that's just like, man, I need to step my game up. Every time I do a song with him, I'm just like, this is serious time. This is, like super dope. Yeah, definitely.
that's a good type of collaborator to have, those, the ones that up each other's game, right? Where everybody steel sharpens steel or whatever. And yeah,
Yeah.
comes
I feel
together.
like that's like all our community of MCs and producers. It's always like that. It's like you're always working with people that are so good at what they do that it gets you amped up to write your verse. You're never like, oh fuck, this verse kind of sucks. We gotta deal with this. Yeah. No, you get it back and you're like, oh, this is awesome. Let's go. And you're amped to work on your stuff.
For real. All right, guys. Well, this has been fun. Stay in touch. You're always welcome back on the show. If I've been meaning to say this to artists I talk to too, that like, guys, I'm sitting streaming, making Canadian hip hop shows like
Yeah.
3 afternoons a week or whatever. Like anytime anybody's got anything to rant about, hit me up. We can do a Zoom call. You know, I had Fresh Kills message me earlier this week, just being like, I think I need to upgrade our relationship where I can just rant to you anytime I need to. And I was like, guys, I'm here for it. Like, really, I'm here
That's
for
what
it.
you
So
want.
yeah, it's open invite to come back. But I appreciate you guys spending the time to do this.
Dope,
Yeah,
man.
man, it was great. Thank you so much.
All right. Peace. Have a good one, guys.
Big up
Much love,
Dubious.
man.
All right, there we go. So thanks everybody for watching. I hope the audio was okay. Somebody told me earlier, Rich told me in chat that it was quiet, so I tried to turn it up on the fly, but hopefully by the time I post this thing to YouTube, I'll be able to edit it and get the sound up high. So yeah, I had fun tonight talking to those guys. Coming up though, I've booked every Tuesday night for Flying Formation interviews. Next week, I'm talking to Niagara Falls-based artist Dialect Sosa. He's got a new project coming up. February 11th, I talked to Calgary-based MC Half Cut. February 18th, I talked to who has recently been described to me as a West Coast legend. A different MC, OP Yeti, hit me saying Def 3 is a legend. So February 18th, I'm talking to Def 3. Looking forward to that one. And February 5th. February 25th, I talked to BC Twitch, who's an Edmonton-based guy who, well, maybe actually now he's BC-based, I think he said. But yeah, looking forward to talking to him as well. And I'm already setting up interviews throughout March and April as well for Tuesdays. So if you enjoy this type of content, make sure you hit follow. Twitch.tv/dubious is where these interviews happen live. Mixcloud.com/dubious is where you can find the After the Smoke is Clear archives for free listening. If you didn't know, every week DJ Dice and I put together an hour worth of independent hip-hop from across Canada and try to get as much new music in as many new ears as we can. So mixcloud.com/dubious is the place you can find all that. If all you can remember is my name, dubious.com is the hub for everything that I do. I appreciate y'all a lot. Keep coming through. Peace.